Hey everyone, it's Dan here, the host of Haunted Times. Today, I have decided to share some stories that are pretty personal, paranormal, of course. And at first, I thought about it, I was like, do I really want to share these? But if someone ever relates to me, that'd be great. We can talk about it, we can talk about our experiences, and maybe that can bring people to kind of express themselves and tell me about their experiences, because I know that a lot of people are kind of afraid to talk about their experiences because they think that, I don't know, nobody's going to believe them. And that is a lot of the times the case. But today I will be sharing a few of my craziest paranormal experiences. I will say this all happened in Puerto Rico. Thank God, I've never had anything happen so far in the United States. Most of the time, like, hauntings happen a lot over there because of the strong presence of, spirits. The fact that there's so much santeria still happening. Usually that was like a thing from the past, but grandparents still practice it. Your moms, your parents still practice it. It's just something that it's still pretty like strong over there. I can start by talking about my mom. She was involved in santeria, which is technically witchcraft, but santeria is very different than just like regular witchcraft. Like, there's no tarot readings or like Wiccan stuff. Like, it's just they give you this saint and you have to take care of it. And if you don't, things will start happening. And that's really scary. Especially like, being a kid and being raised by parents that are into that. That was just very terrifying for me. I still remember every morning when my mom would wake up and throw salt all over the ground and kind of like, mop out. It was really scary, but interesting stuff. So I want to talk about what happened to me and how it all began for me and how that took me into wanting to make a podcast about hauntings. So I believe my first experience was I was about 9 years old. And this was like my first time ever experiencing anything. I was asleep. I woke up. It was like 2, 3 a.m. And I remember looking against a wall, and the windows kind of like reflected the lights towards the wall. And I remember looking at my wall, just staring at it. And I just saw like so many people just walking around like shadows, just like side to side. And I was like, what the heck? Who's outside? And I remember it was a garage. It was closed. So like nobody could be there. And it was like 2 a.m. Who the hell was going to do that? So I decided to ignore it. I was very young. It scared me, yeah, but I was like so tired that I just kind of just went back to sleep. My second experience happened at my grandfather's house, and I remember it was about the same time, 2, 3 a.m. I was around 10 years old, and I remember I was looking at the wall again, shadow, like lights reflecting from outside. They marked this shadow, and it was a man, like an older man, just smoking a pipe, like in a rocking chair. I didn't get scared. I just looked at it for a few seconds, and then I kind of just like drifted back. And I remember there was this saying that it said basically, if you are afraid, that means that the entity is bad, it's negative. But if you don't get afraid, that means that it's good, it's positive. So at that moment, I didn't get afraid. And I remember I told my parents about it, and my mom said, oh, that could be your grandfather, like my dad's side. And I was like, well, that's kind of crazy and scary. How the hell did he get here? Because he didn't even live close. But that was the second time I ever experienced something. After that, I was unfortunately, my life was like, it took a turn, and I had to live in these child services, like the houses and homes and all that stuff. That's when I experienced the worst in my life. And I think it was because I was in such a negative mindset that it kind of just, everything that was bad was just coming at me. It was not the best time, but this one is a little crazy. But I have to explain it in a way so that way it can be understood. There's these two places in Puerto Rico. One is Arecibo. The other one is Vega Baja. It's like super far away from each other, like an hour and such. And I remember while I was living in the house in Arecibo, I was staying with this family. It was just a temporary home, and I was going to go to another one after that. And this girl, her name was Rachel. She was around my age. So we kind of like became really good friends. Her aunt was there for vacation. I remember I would walk from the living room to the bathroom and she would just stare at me, like just straight up, like staring at me. And I was like, what the is wrong with this? But at the time I didn't say any of that because I was young, I was just like, she probably has a problem with me. So I remember she stayed there for at least like 3 days and then she left. And I remember I asked Rachel's sister, Catherine in Spanish, hey, like, why is your auntie always staring at me? And she said that every time she would look at me, there was this shadow with a shadowy form with a white suit just following me. I would go into the bathroom and it would go into the bathroom. I would go into the room and it would go into the room. And I was just like, okay, that's scary. But I kind of like brushed it off. 2 or 3 days after they told me that, or rather she told me that, I was sleeping and the father of the family, he woke up and he said that he saw a shadowy figure with a white suit in front of my door. So the craziest thing is that there's this prayer in Puerto Rico, and it's basically a prayer that it says, like I mentioned before, if it's good, then you can stay. If it's bad, then please, go away. Something like that. And it went away. But the craziest part is that same day that he saw that, and after that prayer, I woke up and my body was so itchy. And it was like I had the worst allergic reaction I've ever had in my life. I remember eating the same thing that I would eat just any other day and it would never affect me. But that day, I remember like looking at my arms and the marks and the rash was just so huge. It looked like 1,000 bees just came and stung me. Scariest moment. But I didn't know that until later. He told me what he had seen. At that night, I just thought that I had an allergic reaction. So this is when it gets crazy. I move from that house and I go to Vega Baja. They obviously don't know these people. Who the heck is gonna know about what they saw? So I'm living in this home, and it was a home for all girls. My room was at the end of the hallway. You go in and there was like a bunk bed to my right, a bunk bed to the wall, and then there was a bathroom and the door. And then the rest of it was just a closet and windows that would kind of like go to the woods. I slept alone in that room, even though there was like a lot of girls. They were all in just separate rooms because there was a lot of girls, but not enough to like fill every single room. And I was alone in my room. I was sleeping at the bunk bed that was beside the wall. This girl that, it was like the first week that I was living there. And she's like, hey, are you Eliana's? Oh, call me Dad. Are you Eliana's? And I said, yeah. And she's like, I need to speak to you because I had the craziest dream. So we sit down and she starts talking about her dream. And she says that in her dream, she was walking down the hallway to, there's a bathroom by the hallway towards my room. So she was going to go to that bathroom. And she said that when she looked over to my door, there was a man that was wearing a white suit just standing by my door. Initially, when she said that, I was just like, what the fuck? You're telling me that this from Arecibo, from a place an hour 2 hours away, this story came. I was just in shock, but I listened to her, and she said that she went around with the son of the woman that used to own that place. They started praying, and that thing kind of like came over and told them not to, that he was trying to protect me. And that was just so crazy. I remember I was a stupid young teenager, and as soon as she left the room, I just sat down in the middle of the room and I just started talking. Like, just, where are you? Show yourself. And it was stupid. I should have never done that. There was something that happened that was way scarier than that, but you know what? I'm not going to talk about that one. I'll leave that one for later. But I will tell you about another thing that happened in that same place. It was about 4 a.m. in the morning, and I was asleep. And I remember, I don't know if you guys know that, like, whenever you're sleeping and the bed is like against a wall and your sheets kind of like go through the wall and the bed and the between those two, and you kind of like, try to grab it and pull it up. I remember my sheets, I couldn't find them. I was like, what the so it was cold. It was like 3 4 a.m, and I started like looking around half asleep. I grabbed the sheets and they were kind of like through the corner, like where the wall meets the bed. It was like a little corner like that, and the sheets kind of fell through that, or I thought. So I started pulling on it, and I could feel if someone was going, like letting it go and kind of like grabbing it again. Yeah, I was very tired, so I didn't really care about that at the moment, but I just grabbed it and I yanked it and I put it on me. Not even 5 seconds passed, and I started feeling it just going down. My eyes shut open like Squidward. I don't know why I didn't scream immediately. I wanted to see if it was real. I wanted to see if what I was actually feeling was real. I didn't know. I just waited, and I kept feeling it. With my eyes open and everything, I kept feeling my sheet just getting pulled. So at that moment, when it was around my waist, I screamed so loud, got out of the bed, turned on the lights, looked down. There was nothing. And I have so many friends that always talk about that moment. Like whenever I share with them, they always tell me like, dude, imagine if you would have looked under that and there was like, I don't know, a demon under there. But luckily, none of that happened. I'm grateful. I don't know. I just thought about it and I said, maybe it would be cool to share. There's a lot of people that don't want to talk about this. When it happens to them, they think that they're going to be called crazy. They're going to be called like liars and, oh, you're just making it up for attention. But a lot of us go through these situations and we don't even know who to tell. And I think the scariest thing that can happen to anybody is that they see something and they tell either their family or their significant other, hey, do you see that? And they're just like, nah, I don't see anything. Because at that moment, that, well, you initially think I'm going crazy, but you're not. I'm seeing something that no one else can see. You're not alone, because there could be people out there that have seen things similar to what you've seen. Yeah, that's how urban legends start. People see something and they go like, oh my gosh, like there's this thing in this road, and then people, oh yeah, I've seen that thing. And they just continue adding on to the story, and it gets bigger and bigger and louder. I would love to have like a community of people that just share their experiences, because we can all talk about it. We've all had similar experiences, and maybe there's people that know how to deal with that better, Maybe there's people that can help you. It's so sad that people up to this day, they cannot share this. Back in the day, exorcisms and things like that were just so famous. Now it's like rare, but before it was insane. The Vatican had people studying this thing, like they would study to become an exorcist, and they would be sent. And nowadays, like anything like that happens and we're just like, oh, I don't know who to tell because I'm scared. I'm scared to tell, I don't know, my buddy Brian or something, because Brian's not gonna believe me. It's good to have communities. It's good to have, like, I don't know, Reddit groups, anything of people that can share their experiences and not be called crazy. I don't really share my personal experiences because of this, because I always think that people are going to think oh no, she's lying, Like, it can happen to anyone, especially back in the day when everything was just so crazy. Now it's a little calm. It does help to have something, to hold on to. A few days ago, I was actually in this website and I was just looking at people's stories. And there was these interesting, like, diner stories that they just stuck with me. They're not really paranormal, because not everything scary has to do with the paranormal, right? Scary things happen all the time. This one is a diner story of a woman that she was a server. It was around 2 a.m. and they used to close at like 3. And she was like getting ready to close. There was nobody at the diner. So she was just like cleaning the tables. It was just her and the chef. And out of nowhere, this guy comes in. And she was like, damn it. I mean, they're still open, so they have to give, service. She sits so she goes to the guy and he presents himself as Nolan. She takes his order, and whenever she goes to enter it, he kind of like calls her over and they just start having a conversation. She was a smart gal. She didn't share anything personal, but he was asking a lot of personal questions like, oh, where are you from? Where do you live? Have you been living here too long? Like, do you have a boyfriend? It's 2 a.m. You're at a restaurant. There's just this guy asking you where you live, if you've lived here. It's kind of scary. So she was very smart, and she kind of just like, she answered his questions without giving too much away. The guy gets his food. He eats. He goes. Outside of the diner, usually it was only her car and the chef's car. But that night, there was 3 cars. One was hers. The other one was the chef, and she couldn't see who the other car was. The windows were so tinted that she couldn't even see inside, or she didn't notice if anyone was inside. So she starts driving down the road, and there was this back road that she takes that is very dark. She sees that her tire started deflating, and it was deflating fast. At that moment, she knew this guy did something to my tire. She parks at the side of the road. Lights come behind her car. So it was Nolan, and he comes and kind of like taps on her window, and he's wearing gloves this time. She doesn't lower the window completely. She lowers it, like she cracks it, and he's like, oh, he says her name. He's like, what happened? Like acting like he doesn't know. She's like, oh, I just have a flat tire. And at that moment, she starts marking 911 while she's talking to him, kind of like puts it in her lap because she can't talk. She's like right in front of him. He's asking her questions. She starts talking to the 911 operator. She talks is like in code, saying out loud, I don't know how my tire got flat, sir, but don't worry, I don't need your help. So that way they know something's going on. He kind of goes like, no, don't worry, I'm going to fix it for you. So he heads out. She pulls up the window completely, and she starts talking to the 911 operator, and she tells him like, hey, this guy, like he blew up my tire and I'm all alone. Like I need help. And as soon as she's saying that, he goes through the passenger seat and he breaks her window. She points the phone at him and she tells him like, hey, I'm with the 911 operator. Like the cops are on their way. He just yanks his hand in, grabs her phone, throws it to the road, and he heads out. They never found Nolan. They got her like, the everything, the information, everything, and nothing. They never found Nolan. The first few weeks, the cops were kind of calling her, asking her for like more descriptions, but that was the end of it. These stories are so terrifying because we live this all the time. Anything can happen at any moment. It is so scary. She was just working her shift. Regular day, I'm working my shift, I'm doing my thing, and then out of nowhere, this guy comes in. So, we already know that there was a bad intention, especially if he technically blew up her tire to get her to that position. Stories like that are so crazy. I'm always looking up stories. I'm always looking up documentaries. I love anything that has to do with things that happen like that, because you never know. People are even scarier than actual ghosts. It's so scary to see how crazy people can be. It doesn't compare to the paranormal at all. Like there was a few of them that I actually read about also a woman, and she lived in a small town, and this couple came to the restaurant. She's like talking to them, and the woman kind of seemed very silent. The guy was talking more to her. He's asking her these questions if she lived alone. Personally, if they asked me a question like that, I would never say anything. The girl was like, she was tired. She thought that they were nice people. She said, yeah, I live alone. I live in an apartment complex by myself. After work, she went home. She was sitting on the couch, and she hears this knock. There's the door to her apartment. She gets out. There's a door like to the mailbox, and then that other door, it's like the entrance door to the apartments, because she hears the knock and she's like, where the hell is that coming from? So she goes out of her apartment and she goes into the mailbox room, and she sees at the entrance door that somebody's knocking. It was a woman. The door was a glass door, so she could see her through it. She felt like this familiar feeling. She knew this woman. She's seen her before. So the woman comes to her and she says, there's this guy chasing me. I need help. And the girl's like, don't I know you? She doesn't answer. She just says, please open the door. There's a guy chasing me. He's chasing me. He's going to come. And she's like, I think I know you. You're the girl that was with that guy at the diner. So the woman looks away and she looks towards the guy that was coming. And when she looks, she noticed that it was the guy from the diner. She starts running inside because the guy just started hitting the entrance door, like trying to break it in. She locks the door, and instead of calling the cops, the woman just like showers. And then she's like, I'm just gonna go to bed. I'm tired. Nothing happened. She hears another knock, but this time, her apartment door. So she goes to her apartment door and she asks, who is it? No one talks. So she starts mentioning the names of her like other neighbors. No one answers. And she says, you know what? If you don't talk, I'm just going to call the police. What do you want? And the guy from the other end of the door said, your blood on my skin. So that made her call the cops immediately. And the cops came. They told her, hey, you should sleep at another place. She grabbed like a little bag. She went to sleep at her parents' house. The next morning, she went back to her apartment and her landlord was there. And he's like, what's the meaning of this? There was a message in blood written on her wall, like outside of her apartment, saying that she got lucky. Thank God, because I never want to have any experience like that. I'm just glad that she eventually, called the cops. I would have called them like immediately. As soon as that woman would have been knocking on my door, like in front of the entrance, I would have just called the cops. I would not. Nah, not me. Not me. The first story that she knew what was happening. Like she followed that gut feeling. This person is gonna do something. You can't really pair the situations with a paranormal situation because it's just not the same. But it is still a horrifying situation, which is why I talk about it. But about stories of paranormal experiences, I've been through so many. And I have so many friends that have been through the same thing. In the Hispanic culture, we have a lot more situations with things like this because of the witchcraft. And I keep mentioning it, but it's the truth. Like it doesn't matter if you're Mexican, it doesn't matter if you're Puerto Rican, Colombian, it doesn't matter. If you are of Hispanic descent, you've seen something. And people that are Hispanic and have not seen anything, they are so lucky. Like my sister and I, we would sit on our beds just talking for hours and hours and hours and hours about our experiences. My cousin has had insane experiences. It's just like, it's something that goes with the family and the culture of a person. Thankfully, like I said, I've not experienced anything in America, and I hope I never do. It's neat to, when you do deal with situations like that, you get these, I wouldn't call them skills, I'd say gifts. I have this gift. If I go into a place, I can feel that energy. If I go into this place and I feel like that heaviness, that negative vibe, I know there's something in there. I know there's something latched onto someone or latched onto a house. One of the two. It's incredible to get these gifts. Mine specifically, it's like that. And I get all nauseous and I just gotta get out. Like when I go to a house and it feels a certain way, I gotta get out. It's situations like that make you want to, talk more and make you think, who else has experienced this? I want to know. I want to know who else has gone through the same situation that I have. I want to make friends with them. Let's talk about it. In my family's house, there was a lot because not only did my mother deal with it, my father started dealing with it later. It was heavy in that house. It was heavy. And to this day, it's still heavy. I went to Puerto Rico a year ago and I went to that same house and I don't like going to that house. It's like one of those places that you just go to and you just don't want to ever touch anymore because it's just so negative. My father is probably one of the strongest people I know when it comes with stuff like that. He does not care. He has had his air conditioning turned off while he's asleep. And he just straight up just goes, hey, turn it on. Something sits on his bed and he'll be like, oh, you're so fucking heavy. Bro, what? How? When there's a situation that is something that you cannot explain, the first thought that comes to your head, it's what the fuck? You don't even think about anything else because you're so terrified. You're so frozen by fear that you don't think about anything else, especially when it's something you can't explain. I wanted to talk about that. I wanted to share my experiences, and in hopes that maybe that'll bring other people to share their experiences, because that's what Haunted Times is all about. Sharing experiences. Let's talk about it. Let's open up. Hey, I would love to bring people to just talk about it with me. That would be great. Is there anything you've seen, that you could say, hey, I've seen that thing. I've seen that chupacabra. And in terms of witchcraft, if there's anyone out there that grew up with someone in their household doing that, there's got to be something there. Today, I wanted to focus on this. I wanted to focus on personal paranormal experiences, and I wanted to tell you a little bit about those horror stories that I've been researching. And it was really interesting, and I'm going to definitely keep researching that, because there's horror in paranormal and there's horror in the world. And we need to know about that. Next time, I will bring up UFOs, because I have so many interesting stories that I have to talk about. And I bring pictures and videos about UFOs. And I might share with you one of my scariest stories. It depends. It depends if I'm ready, if you're ready. Well, thanks, guys, for tuning in to Haunted Times again with Dan, remember. Thank you so much. And please, feel free to share your stories. I would love to hear it. Have a great night.